Hi, my name is Alexis and I will be teaching you how to professionally bowl. To start, I would like to point out that I'm right-handed and bowl with one arm, and that is the way I'll be teaching you today, plus some pointers for left-handed users, but don't feel limited because there's also two-handed professional bowling. A little bit about me is that I've been bowling professionally for 6 years, and I've never really taught how to bowl, but I've helped my teammates improve their bowling, so hopefully I can do the same for you. First, I would like to point out a few terms so you know what I'm talking about. First off is the foul line. If you walk all the way to where the gutter begins, you will see a black line going across the lane. This is the foul line. You're not allowed to go over this line because 1, you'll be on an oily lane, which isn't good for your shoes and messes up the lane, and 2, it's a penalty, which means you've lost your first throw in the frame and only get the second throw with a whole new rack. This brings me to another term, frames. If you look at the screen, you'll see the name you put in and numbers across the screen from 1 through 10. Each number is a frame, and each frame you get 2 throws. 1 to hopefully strike, and if you miss the strike, the second is so that way you can get a spare for points. 10 frames is called a game, so when you're paying for one game, you're paying for 10 frames. Each game has a chance to get 300 points. 300 is the maximum you can get in 10 frames, and to do that, you would have to strike every single frame, which is extremely difficult. Don't worry too much about getting a 300 today, though. If you look back on the lane, you can see a triangle of arrows. These are what you're aiming for. We count these arrows by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. These are ultimately going to help you get your ball to where it needs to go. Each little sliver of wood is called a board. This is important to know so you can adjust your position when picking up pins. Today, we are going to be aiming for 20. If you look further, you can see the pins. These are obviously what you're going to knock down. These pins are numbered 1 through 10. The very front is the first pin, then you go back in rows starting from left to right. So the next one would be the second and third pin. These are going to be used to describe where you hit and what pins you have left. The next term is pockets. A pocket is either the gap between the first and second pin or the first and third pin. If you're right-handed, you are aiming for the first and third. If you're a lefty, you'll be aiming for the first and second. If you end up hitting the opposite pocket, that is called a Brooklyn shot. These are still acceptable, but it's not really your target. A split can be big or it can be short, but a split is when you have pins with gaps in between them. There can be a 3-way split or a 4, 6, 7, 10 split, but what isn't a split is pins that are right next to each other. It's only considered a split if there's a bigger than regular setup gap. If we come back here, you can see dots on the lane. Like arrows, we count them by 10. Today we're going to be standing on 20. You will need to know where you're standing to adjust for spots. My next point is adjusting where you are standing. Say you left the 10 pin, you will be moving to the left by 10. Left-handed users will be moving the opposite. If you left the 6 pin, you will be moving 5 left. If you left the 3rd pin, you will be moving 2 left. And it's the same for the other side, just moving to the right and with pins 7, 4, and 2. Sorry, I know that was a lot of information, but now we're moving on to stance. There are different stances for everyone. You're going to start with your foot opposite to your dominant arm at the dot. You're going to put your other foot right next to that foot, but at halfway of your foot from the dot. You're going to bend at the knees just slightly. If you have wide hips or you are a woman, you're going to move that hip over to whatever side your non-dominant hand is. Your dominant hand will be holding your ball right about your hip. You're going to be making a 90-degree angle with your arm and making sure it's in line with that shoulder. You'll be using your other hand to support the ball. Make sure your back is straight and facing directly towards the lane. That is the professional stance. You're going to walk with your dominant hand side foot first, so the one you put halfway from your foot. First, we'll focus on your feet. Bowling is a 5-step process, and you're going to be walking on to the beat of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On beat 4, your non-dominant foot should be behind the foul line, and on 5, your dominant foot should be behind and crossed. Now on the arms. On 1, you're going to be pushing the ball forward and dropping it. Do not muscle the ball. Let gravity do its thing, but for this demonstration, I'll be muscling it to show you where you need to be with that beat. On 2 and 3, your ball should have made its way behind your back, and on 4, your ball should be letting gravity push it back forward, and on 5, it should be right in front of you. On beat 5, the ball should fall out of your hand and fly down the lane. Make sure you keep your eyes on the arrow so that way your hand makes it so it's exactly in line with it. To ensure your ball flies down the lane, you're going to follow through. This part, you are muscling it. You are going to put your dominant hand all the way behind your head, or as my coach calls it, the I'm so pretty pose. And on the first beat, your non-dominant hand should have let go of the ball. That hand is now going to go straight out to your side for balance. If you have problems with staying faced forward, you are going to rotate your shoulder forward, so your shoulder is pointed at the lane, while your non-dominant hand is still straight out. The wrist is the most important part. It dictates whether or not your ball curves most of the time. Before the first beat, your wrist stance should be slightly to the side, so the back of your hand is a little to the side of the outer portion of your body. You are going to keep your wrist to the side until beat 2 and 3. On beat 2 and 3, the inside of your hand should be facing the lane entirely. On beat 4, you're going to move your wrist back to the side as the ball falls back forward. On beat 5, your hand should follow through like you're shaking hands with a lane. If you want your ball to curve more, you can follow through with the inside of your hand still facing the lane. And that is how you professionally bowl. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope you have fun bowling professionally!